Severe weather once again front and center for the third week in a row, from Texas to Georgia down to Florida over the next 2.5 days. And we are after a beautiful day in much of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, getting ready for a bit of a soaking rain for later Tuesday into Wednesday, and a few pockets of winter weather hanging on over parts of the country. We will examine all of this and so much more tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And Mr. Rayo, Joe Rayo on my left. I'm Joe Chaffee. Welcome aboard on this Monday night, the 4th of April, 2022. And once again, it's 3 weeks in a row, virtually the same places are undergoing severe weather, and we're going to see that eventually move across all the Gulf states. We've got rain coming up the coast. And what I said yesterday holds true, Joe. April is the most miserable month of the year.
Yes, somebody wrote, a famous poet or whatever, that April is the cruelest month. So yeah,
Right.
that person may have been making reference to the fact that the weather very often is not all that nice in this fourth month of the year. It's also, according to David Ludlam in one of his books, New England Weather, he claims the National Weather Service said that it's the stormiest, most unsettled month of the year. That's surprising. I would have thought it would have been another month like March or November, but
Well,
April apparently is it.
was he referring to storm systems, or was he referring to thunderstorms? Because I think you could certainly make the case, as far as thunderstorm and tornado activity, that April's, if you look at the whole United States, April's
Yeah,
pretty much up there as far as that
right.
goes.
Not sure. I'd have to look. I'll have to look back on the book and see precisely what he was talking about or what he was referencing. But in any case, regardless, as you just said, now we had a beautiful start to the day up here today. But as the day wore on, you could see that it was becoming a bit frayed around the edges, so to speak, by about early to mid afternoon. And by the time the sun set, you couldn't see the sun anymore because the clouds had pretty much rolled in and taken over. And as you just alluded to, it looks like we're now in for some wet weather here for our Tuesday.
Yeah,
I'll pay you Tuesday for a
or
hamburger
hamburger
today.
today. Exactly. Well, you had that system. There's a system over the Great Lakes that was moving eastward, and it just pretty much is falling apart. But the clouds, what's left of it in terms of the moisture, the clouds are streaming eastward, and that's what you're getting. You got later during the afternoon and tonight, and then of course tomorrow you've got some of this moisture that's producing the thunderstorms with low pressure coming up the Appalachians. You have a bit of an onshore flow that's going to develop, and it sets up for a decent rain, I think, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And then one of the things I had to make clear, because everybody, when they hit our forecast, they'll key in on the words. For example, if you say rain on and off for most of this week, uh, they'll key in on the rain and they'll key in on the this week, and they will leave out the on and off. So you'll wake up tomorrow morning and you're going to think, oh, they said it was going to rain today and it's not. Well, no, it doesn't rain continuously for five or 6 days, but we are going to see rain in much of the Northeast and north the Mid Atlantic states at some point each day, starting tomorrow and going, I think, into Saturday, until we can finally clean up the upper air, because that's really driving all of this.
Yeah, and looks like we may be looking at rainfall amounts, in some cases in excess of an inch. And after all we went through at the end of last week, looks like more of that is heading this way. And looking at some of the longer range outlooks, Joe, it looks like this April could turn out to be a rather wet month overall with above normal precipitation. I know it's only 4 days in, but from the overall pattern that I was looking at, it would appear to me that more often than not, we're going to be looking at clouds and wet weather right on through the middle and latter part of the month.
Yeah, one of the frustrating things I think for most people is they would just like to string maybe two back-to-back nice days. And I think if you look back except in really rare instances, in the month of April, it's usually you get a nice day and that's it, and then you'll see rain on the next at some point over the next 3 or 4, and then you get a nice day again, and that's it. It it it
Yeah.
it's just the problem is it's an obvious problem, and that is you've got um, uh, so much. You still have these cold air masses in Canada. They are they're becoming less obvious, maybe, or maybe less robust as each day goes by, but they're still there. And at the same time, you've got much of the U.S. heating up rapidly from the right, the increasing sun angle, and of course we're getting each day deeper and deeper into the month of spring. It gets warmer and warmer, and you get April's the month where you see most of these clashes that occur between those two schemes.
I'm not going to. I'm going to mention it in spite of the fact that my wife Renata said, "Don't mention that." But just for the heck of it, since we're coming in or closing in on Holy Week and Passover and Easter Sunday, I said, "Well, let's take a look and see what the pattern looks like beyond, 4 or 5 days." And of course, once you go beyond that, it's anybody's game, anybody's thought as to what's going to happen. But the GFS, at least the 12Z GFS run, suggests, Joe, that when we get to around Easter, maybe not Easter Sunday, but maybe Easter Monday, there may actually be some snow concerns around here.
Oh
And
yeah.
again,
Well, let's put
again,
that let's put that
again,
let,
it's not.
let
It's
let's put that 330-hour run of the GFS and make it front and center. I mean,
I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself by saying or talking about that.
well, Tom Contino's he's got his shovel ready. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah,
obvious.
he said on the chat board, he said, chance of a threat on the 18th, Mr. Rayo. Well, I mean, if you want to believe the GFS, Tom, yeah.
Oh,
But
good God. It's
again, as Joe points it out, it's what 300 and something hours away or whatever. And we all have been saying that once you get past, 5 days with any of these long range models, it is bound to change. So I wouldn't hold my breath. But if it does happen, if it were to happen that we had any kind of frozen precipitation on the 18th, that in itself is somewhat remarkable because it was the 18th of April in 1976 where we had 96 degrees. So, weather can change, weather do change from year to year. And in this case, maybe by mid-month, but then again, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, it's yeah. There was a run yesterday too that had something. This is the time of year where you really don't need to pay attention to that sort of stuff. I mean, uh, this isn't February, and this isn't even early March. It is April, so we'll get.
And when this show is over, I'm going to walk upstairs, and she's going to be standing there like this. And she said, "What did I tell you about talking about?" You know, it,
So
and then I'm
the
not going to hear
point
it for the. I'm going to hear it.
the point of this show is that I get to do what I want, and you get to do what you want, and that you don't have a producer telling you what you can and can't do, and
Right.
and tell you when you are doing something that you need to do it within X amount of time. You only have 15 seconds to do that. But
Exactly.
every show has an executive producer, and on your side anyway, she be it.
Precisely. Not, but you see, in 99% of the cases, the executive producer is not married to one of the two celebrities of the show. So
That's correct. Welcome to everybody on watching the show tonight, and to everyone on the chat board. It is a good thing if you took advantage of the nice weather in the north. Actually, anywhere up and down the East Coast. We had a beautiful day here, got to 70 degrees. Hardly just some patchy clouds earlier today. Most of the day, Joe, it was mostly sunny, a bit on the breezy side, and also felt the humidity come up ever so slightly because we're setting up here for some pretty hefty rain tomorrow. and also I'm in enhanced risk on Wednesday. I'm in marginal risk for
Uh-oh.
tomorrow. I'm in enhanced risk here on Wednesday. So I'll be curious to see
Will
if
we have a will we have a show on Wednesday?
well, listen, it'd be kind of cool if we did have some thunderstorms going on. I could attempt to go um, take the computer out on the screened-in porch and see if I could pull it off. But I don't know if I want to risk a lightning strike for the sake of the
Joe,
show.
Joe, if you're in enhanced risk on Wednesday, and you decided in the middle of a massive thunderstorm to pull the computer outside so that you can give all of us the chances of seeing that, I just want to tell you that goes hand in hand with July 21st, 1983, when Diana Ross was staging a concert for 800,000 people in Central Park. There was severe weather dropping on down toward Central Park from the north, heavy rain, lightning, thunder, people scurrying in all different directions. And there's Diana Ross on the stage holding a microphone surrounded by all this electronic equipment, telling everybody, don't worry about it. It's just a little rain. Don't stay with me or whatever.
It's just a
And I'm watching
drizzle.
this. I'm watching. Yeah, I'm watching this on News Channel or News Center 4. Channel 4 at that time was experimenting, doing live news reports at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This was like at 5 o'clock. And there she is up on the stage. The lightning is flashing in all different directions. And I said to myself, good Lord, we're about to see a person get fricasseed on television because all that had to happen was one of those bolts hit that electronic equipment and she's holding the microphone. So I would say, out of the goodness of,
No, I'm not
you
doing it.
know,
First of
heart,
all, I'm not
don't
being
don't do that on
I'm not being
Wednesday.
paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go sit on my screened-in porch. And second of all, there's an enhanced risk, but this weekend there is an enhanced risk that I will be either by a swimming pool or beachside in Florida. So I want to make sure that I keep that appointment and not necessarily keep the plan in for Wednesday. Let's look at SPC because the word of the day from the Storm Prediction Center is enhanced. Enhanced risk, not just for today, but for tomorrow and for Wednesday across the southern states. And there's been no variation in this pattern we've been in, obviously, since the middle part of March, because this is 3 weeks in a row. You could have, set your calendar to this, just marked it down because it's virtually the same areas that have gotten hit since mid-March are getting hit yet again. And we have an enhanced risk tonight over much of north central and northeastern Texas, across northern Louisiana, into western Mississippi. Now, those storms, by the way, are on the western end of that enhanced area where you see that blue box is the only watch that we have up at the moment, severe thunderstorm watch up for the western part of central Texas, and the storms extend from there on into Oklahoma. So by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, they are going to be in Mississippi. These things are going to move very, very quickly. And SPC just 21 minutes ago, Joe, put up a severe potential tornado watch likely for the area to the east of that severe thunderstorm watch. So we may have another watch box up here before this show is all said and done.
That's on the latest, I guess, mesoscale discussion, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
All right,
I
so
took a
here's
wild guess at that.
yes. So here's what it looks like. We also don't want to leave out the fact that there is a marginal risk of severe weather over central and south Florida. And as you've all know by now, from the weekend, the severe weather over Florida caused the cancellation of, I think, over 35 cancellation or delays in over 3,500 flights, and left a few people slightly ticked, let's say. And
Yes.
there you have it. So this is for tonight into tomorrow morning. And then for tomorrow, tomorrow I'm in the margin. Actually, they pushed. I'm close to the slight risk. Okay, it's probably on the other side of the mountains here from me. so maybe about 20 miles, 25 miles away. So technically, I am in the marginal risk, and then go 17 miles in the other direction to the North Carolina state line, and the marginal risk cuts off. So there's that narrow sliver that I'm living in. But you can see enhanced risks for tomorrow in southeastern Mississippi, the southern half of Alabama, the southern half of Georgia, and into South Carolina, and also covering much of northern and central Florida, at least up along the Atlantic coast, and then spreading out more to the west as you get further north. And we will move to day 3. Now, this is where I get into the mix here. I'm in enhanced risk here for severe weather. And nice little bubble of enhanced there in northern Alabama, northern Georgia, southeastern Tennessee, western South Carolina, and North Carolina. The marginal risk pushing up into West Virginia and southwestern Virginia. And we still have on the day 4 outlook, which is Thursday, SPC still has, they haven't really changed this at all for the last couple of days. So they have a 15% risk, which is a slight risk from coastal southeastern North Carolina, let's say like Myrtle Beach or somewhere nearby, eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, and into central Delaware. In fact, that yellow arrow almost touches southern New Jersey. So I'm thinking, Joe, I'm going to draw my idea here on the map. And I'm thinking that they're going to have a marginal risk tomorrow up to about New York City. And the I'm going to assume that the slight risk will stay the same. Maybe they'll nudge the slight risk up a little bit further to the north because that cold front is going to be to our west all day on Thursday, and there's going to be a wave that's going to move on it, so I wouldn't move along it. So I wouldn't be shocked if we wind up seeing a cluster of severe thunderstorms that develop out of this. But I'm thinking they may push the marginal risk up to about New York City, the Hudson Valley, maybe Southwest Connecticut and Long Island on the eastern side, and into eastern Pennsylvania and points south on the western side. That's my guess.
Yeah, I would assume that we're going to see. First of all, I think we're going to assume that we're going to see at least some thunderstorm activity on Thursday. And you're right. I think maybe, just maybe, we'll see marginal reach as far north as New York City. And I do agree with you. I think that this time around, the slight risk will stay just off to our south. Could be wrong though. I mean, we have the general trend. Whenever we've been seeing these outlooks, stretched out to, let's say, day 4, day 5, they only seem to expand quite noticeably. In fact, in the final day or two. So who's to say? Maybe, just maybe, in the minds of whoever's going to be doing the forecast for tomorrow or for Wednesday, that they actually do put New York in a slight chance. But I think the general overview of things is that it will stay out of the slight risk, but still be in line for a marginal risk of some thunderstorm activity here on Thursday.
By the way, we do also have the um, on the flash flood, the area in north central and northeastern Texas. I'm just trying to put the extra geography on here. Let me throw on the counties, make the map even look more messy. Look at all those counties, Joe. Uh, Now you lose the state lines. I'll take the counties off, but you can see that areas like Fort Worth and Dallas, into northeastern Texas, northern Louisiana, into Mississippi, and also back southern Arkansas, southern Oklahoma, also in a zone for a slight risk for flash flooding. So that will be, I mean, just for laughs, because they have an experimental day 4 and day 5 here. So let's see what they have for day 4. Just in case that I don't expect that they would have anything in the east, but just to see. And the map's loading. Doesn't look like they have anything here up in the east for day 4, so that would be for Thursday, and we don't have anything to worry about when it comes to day 5. And I've got my tornado.
I have to interrupt. I just have to interrupt here because
Oh, please
Izzy
do.
D, who by the way, he's back. He's been away for a short while, but he's back tonight, and he has kicked super chats not once but twice tonight.
Oh, very good. I hope
So,
his surgery
and I
went. He had to get his hernia done. So hopefully,
yes,
hopefully that's
they
all
had to.
taken care
They
of.
still do. he says they still do put mesh in during surgery, at least in his particular case. But on the chat board, he said finally, I guess he said, Joe Rayo, look at my super chats. Yes, the chairman knows.
Yes,
So
exactly.
there you go.
We on Tornado HQ, at least for now, there are no severe. There was one a little early. There was a couple earlier. There were severe thunderstorm warnings. At the moment, we have a bunch of expired. No, these are all actually from a couple of days ago. So we've got no new tornado warnings. And let's see if I can get to that. Let's live updating page. There's only three severe thunderstorm warnings so far. Oh, letting the map. There's one down actually separated from the from the main line way down into Texas. There is a severe thunderstorm warning located near Wat. Oh God, I'm gonna really have a problem with this. This is well, there's one in Florida. Valverde, Texas, and located about uh, near Amistad Village, or 11 miles west of Del Rio, moving northeast at 35 miles an hour. There's another one. There are two others going on in Florida at the moment. One in Osceola County in Florida. Severe thunderstorm located 10 miles southwest of Lake Marion, moving northeast at 25. The other in Florida is in Hardy, Highlands, and Polk counties, and there's a severe thunderstorm near. This, like I said, I was going to have problems with this. Wauchula, Wauchula, moving northeast at 20, and you could see it. I'll bring up the radar. In the main area where we've got the big risk, there's just at the moment there's no severe thunderstorm warnings yet, but there will be soon. And these are the two. You see them in Florida here, and we'll center it up. Looks like they're not too far from. They're all south of Orlando and well inland, but you see the two boxes there in the central part of the state, well north, about halfway between Lake Okeechobee and Orlando, where we're seeing these storms. So most of them right now are inland, and some of them are on the heavy side. So uh, this is going to be one of those nights, Joe, that we're probably going to see that line hold together and get stronger as we go through the night. So we're likely to see some pretty hefty activity and warnings, and maybe some tornadoes during the overnight into tomorrow morning. Here's the satellite view. I love loops in the spring because the storms really stand out. You've got the system from over the weekend, from yesterday, that big swirl south of Nova Scotia, fairly well developed. You've got the dying swirl over the Great Lakes tonight. You've got the new system coming out of the southern plains, and you've got more energy coming in from what will be a rather strong storm in the northern plains. It's coming into the Rockies now, the northern Rockies, and back over to the Pacific Northwest. You do get a lot. The satellite signatures in the springtime are usually pretty impressive.
You know, I think, Joe, that the bulk of the precip that the tri-state area is going to encounter this week probably will be on Wednesday, Thursday. Now, tomorrow, we may get through most of the day without much, if any, precipitation, but not until late in the day do we begin to see precip start creeping in from the south. And then we go through maybe a half inch to an inch of rain on Wednesday, and maybe another half inch to an inch on Thursday. And it may even be more on Thursday if, as we just spoke a few moments ago, if convection gets involved. You know, there could be a few spots here and there that get locally heavy downpours of rain. So again, deal with it, because that's all we can do is deal with it. And even looks like for Friday there may be some lingering shower activity as well. So I don't know what to tell anybody who is hoping for, you know, several consecutive dry days. Looks like it just ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed your one. I hope you enjoyed your one nice day that we had today, or reasonably nice day that we had today.
Yeah, but the next one may not come. Not that it'll be terrible on Saturday, from what I was looking at, or Friday. but there will be the threat for some scattered showers around. So maybe the next dry day from beginning to end may not come until Sunday. So bear that in mind. Here's the radar tonight, and there's actually a few echoes aloft over the Northeast, but much of that is doesn't look like any of that is even reaching the ground. But that certainly explains some of the leftover moisture from what was over the lakes earlier today. Then, of course, we have our area in the southern plains that is going to be the big severe weather producer tonight. And you can see the bottom part of that arc there on the thunderstorms, pretty impressive as it heads towards the Dallas Fort. Well, actually, the bulk of that may wind up going north of the Dallas Fort Worth area. You could also see that activity down going on in Florida. And then you have what's up in the northern Rockies from the western Dakotas through Montana and Idaho and Wyoming, back over into the Pacific Northwest. You've got waves of precip coming in with a storm that is taking shape up in the northern plains. Rainfall over the next 7 days in the east, showing on the QPF, Joe, between whatever falls. Most of this is the bulk of this is going to be tomorrow night into Wednesday, and then whatever falls on Thursday. So you put that all together, an inch and a half or better for much of eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, out to Long Island. Also in the southeast and through the Gulf states, some 2.5 inch plus amounts. And some big amounts in the northern Rockies in liquid precip. And of course, some of that's going to be in the form of some heavy snow up in the northern Rockies and on up into the Pacific Northwest. I Yeah, a lot of this, what we're going to see here on Thursday, a lot of that's going to depend on how convective it gets. I think that's valid. Your point is quite valid from earlier.
And of course, on the chat board right now, the discussion concerning Thursday's forecast is the fact that the Yankees are due to open the season on Thursday. And of course, if we have like a half or 1 inch of rain, or if we had convection and thunderstorms, that may not happen. In fact, somebody I see on the chat board here mentioned about um, the fact that Aaron Boone, the Yankee manager, has already made strong allusions to the fact that opening day Thursday may be pushed back to Friday. But Friday doesn't look like the great. Certainly, Friday doesn't look as bad as Thursday, but still not necessarily that you're going to get away and not get wet. But I guess it's better than snow.
Yeah. Well, let's jump the gun a little bit and go into next week because I happen to have the European 2 meter temperatures. And if we follow it along through this week, it appears obvious when you look at the where the warming is occurring with temperatures in the 80s in Alabama and Georgia on Wednesday, for example, which is one of the reasons why I'm in the enhanced risk of severe weather. You can see the sharp line of where you go from the red and the yellow to suddenly you go into the green 50s and 40s, and the 60s pushing up Wednesday into the Hudson Valley. Now on Thursday, this is Thursday morning. You don't have a big. It doesn't look, Joe, like there's a big push of warm air coming up the coast. The 60-degree line on the European gets to about New York City, but north and west it's all in the 40s. It gets very warm. Delaware, the Delmarva Peninsula, Southeast Virginia, North Carolina, well into the 70s to around 80, which is where SPC's got this risk area. So again, it'll probably be a narrow strip that gets see how far they take the marginal risk with this. I'll be interested to see what they do with it. And then of course you've got this deep upper trough, and if you watch the temperatures there, you can see the cold air with the highs in the 30s. This time of year, that's cold, and 20s above zero up into northern Minnesota. But this trough in the east is going to be there right through Saturday, and then it's going to pull out later on Sunday. Now, next week, we get into a ridge position. Now, if you believe the European, it's got 70s up into almost to southern New England to New York City on Tuesday, and 80s in Virginia and North Carolina, low 80s. And then on Wednesday, it does it again, where it's got temperatures well up into the 70s up the coast and into upstate New York, and warmer as you go a bit further to the south. Again, we'll be in a ridge position here, but one of the issues, and the GFS brings this issue front and center, is the fact that will there be a backdoor cold front that comes down and maybe cuts off some of that warmer air after a one-day visit on Tuesday? That would be the one question I have with regards to next week, as far as warm weather is
Well,
concerned.
this is, and how many times in our lives, Joe, have we heard forecasters at this time of the year? Oh, well, don't worry. Even though it's been cool and dank and damp, it's going to warm up. We've got high pressure building in, and we've got wonderfully warm weather. And you're absolutely right. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, drops the backdoor front, comes on through. All of a sudden, that lovely warm air is shunted back to the south, and we end up in that raw easterly flow. And then people say, well, what happened? All that warm air, all that mild temperatures you promised. And that's because of the backdoor front. And we see that very, very frequently, especially at this time of the year. So something to watch as we move through the next week or two.
And what helps that cause, by the way, is that we've had a negative North Atlantic oscillation for the last week or so, and of course that's meant trough after trough. I just went back to last Friday here on the screen, and that's when we had a deep trough moving through the eastern part of the U.S. That pulled out. Another trough dropped in on Sunday. That lifted out. Another one tried to drop in today, but that got overwhelmed by what's going on to the west. And now you've got some energy coming eastward for tomorrow. You see that little blue area down in Tennessee and Mississippi and Alabama. So there's a fairly strong shortwave trough there. Let me clean this up a little bit. There we go. So you got a shortwave there, and then you've got this system right behind it in the northern plains. Now, the good news, if there is anything good out of this, is the fact that were it not for this big, it's not often that you have a storm system and then it's almost immediately followed up by another storm system almost a day apart. But that's actually going, if that wasn't there in the plains, what would likely happen is this thing here would get stuck off the East Coast and you'd be sitting in dreck for days. Well, thankfully there's a kicker there, but unfortunately the kicker's a fairly deep upper low that's going to strengthen and cut off in the Great Lakes, which brings our cold front with rain with downpours and maybe a thunderstorm or two on Thursday in the east, particularly down in the coastal mid-Atlantic where we've got the severe weather risk. And then it takes another 2+ days for that upper trough to get out of the way. It finally does, but while it's overhead Friday and Saturday, there's going to be some showers with that, and probably even some snow in parts of upstate New York and near the lakes. Might not be as widespread as what it was back over the weekend, and from the weekend before, obviously, when we had that really animal trough in the east. But once that pulls out, we get into that ridge position here in the east. But again, that's all aloft. That's all fine and dandy if you live at if you live at 18,000 feet. Glory hallelujah, you got some warm air, relatively speaking. But it doesn't help the cause with regards to what's going on at the low levels, and you could wind up with some kind of backdoor. In fact, I'm looking at this, Joe. The ridge actually flattens a little bit next Wednesday, so maybe that's why the GFS was from earlier was trying to push some kind of backdoor. Meanwhile, deep trough out in the west later next week, which that's from the European I'm showing, by the way. This is the European with a deep trough out in the west. I'm going to switch to the GFS now, and we'll take a look at that. GFS is going to have a similar idea, but again, is there going to be a backdoor front or isn't there? And then it's got another trough that swings up into the plains, really gathers strength. Look at this. This is for the weekend, for Easter weekend, Joe. Look at this deep trough with a cut. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Look at that.
Yep.
That's just so ridiculous. This map is over amplified for mid-April. No question that it is. Look, if you ever wind up, if that ever verified, something stupid will happen as far as snow is concerned for somebody, especially in elevated areas. Listen, April, I think it was April 16th of 1996, parts of Long Island got 1.5 feet of snow, and it was really heavy wet snow. It all fell at night, and I remember a lot of people saying I missed that storm. I happened to be away that week in Mississippi, but when I got back, there was still little patches of snow here and there, and I had my friends tell me that it was worse than, in some ways, it was worse than the blizzard of '96 because it weighed a ton. You had a foot
Right,
and a half of snow with like 3 inches, 3.5 inches of water equivalent. I mean, it must have been crazy. But look, this pattern,
right.
this pattern still wants to keep dropping deep troughs into the eastern part of the United States, and here we are at April 20th. That's crazy.
And you know the thing that I don't understand now here, I'm not taking a shot at them because they're hired as long range specialists, long range forecasters. But if you look at the Climate Prediction Center's outlook, they have our neck of the woods, our part of the country, the Northeast, in above normal. And not just slightly above, but I mean like deep into above normal temperatures for the time frame that we're looking at right now for Holy Week or Easter week or whatever. And you look at the maps, you say, "So, my God, it looks like it's going to get unseasonably cold, and maybe there's a chance for snow." And then you look at what they come up with, and it's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's going to be above normal, probability wise, above normal temperatures." Well, if this is their idea of above normal, I wish that one of those forecasters would, somehow explain it to me or explain it to us how we're going to end up with above normal with all the maps, so far screaming, you know, uh, trough in the northeastern United States, chilly airflow, northwesterly flow coming down from Canada. I mean, how do you get above normal with that?
You you,
But
you
yeah,
don't,
you
and
don't.
you
You
don't. And
don't.
I think what we're seeing, by the way, if you remember back a few weeks ago, uh, we saw that split in the polar vortex, and it usually takes a week or two for it to play out. And if you look at the overall pattern, if that's correct, we're seeing that playing out now and through the middle part of April with uh, the North Atlantic higher than normal pressures over the North Atlantic and over the Arctic regions, and that is suppressing cold air. What little of cold air is left this time of year, suppressing it to the south. So that does two things: it keeps temperatures below normal in the east. It also creates severe weather issues across the South in the Gulf states, which is what we've been seeing, and that no shocker. Here's the GFS tonight. You can see what it does with this area coming out of Texas. I mean, it really blows it up tomorrow. Gets me into some very heavy rains coming in tomorrow morning into the afternoon. So I'm likely to. It's going to be pouring here tomorrow morning. I'll probably just sit in the house with the dog and just do some computer work while it's happening. But there you go. Some rain breaks out tomorrow afternoon in parts of northern Virginia, kind of a narrow band at first, and then it gets larger tomorrow night into Thursday morning. Uh, Most of it's going to be from New York City south, by the way. That low comes off the North Carolina coast, and that goes out, and then here comes the cold front for Wednesday night, for Wednesday evening, which puts me in enhanced risk of severe weather when that front goes by, and then it just kind of gets hung up during Thursday inland of the coast. Yeah, the tricky part about Thursday, Joe, is that you're going to still have a bit of an onshore flow Wednesday night into Thursday morning. That's really what probably creates an issue with regards to the extent of severe weather on Thursday. It might mollify it just a little bit the further north you go, but we'll wait for that to go by, and then you can see there's showers. That's the upper low and the upper trough over the Great Lakes on Friday. Some scattered showers into the northeast. We'll do it again on Saturday as they fire up in the afternoon. You can see some snow there up in western New York and western PA, and then uh, even Sunday. Even Sunday looks like there's another arm that comes around, and there's some showers on Sunday that are scattered about. And then finally on Monday, a short break. Of course, now we're getting into the ridge position. Let's see if it's got the back door. Yeah, I mean, it's got this backdoor front here that passes through sometime on Tuesday, and then it just, builds a little high, builds southward. So I don't know. The European might be too aggressive with trying to build that ridge up the East Coast the way it is.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, if you remember, on Joe and Joe on Sunday morning, we were talking about how that ridge wasn't going to be around for very long, and that would be our next chance for a little bit of an interlude in between all the clouds and all the wet weather systems. And again, it's as we saw today, it was a 1 day deal, and maybe just maybe by early next week we might get more than a day out of this, but probably not more than two in terms of dry weather, and then we'll probably go back to more unsettled conditions as we edge toward Passover and Easter. And boy, I tell you, Joe, well, I'm going to look that up on Google. Who said April is the cruelest month? And whoever that
It was a
person is, he certainly knew it in
it
terms
was
of
it, it
at
was
least
a
weather.
it was a great poet whose name escapes me, by the way. Also, on the screen right now, this is what the model was doing with all that cold air. This is Easter Sunday, where it's got a developing what is that, a 91 low east of Virginia and south of Long Island that becomes a 979 low near Nantucket come next Monday morning. Uh, for the radar presentation of this, by the way, is mostly rain, even inland. So I don't know. Sometimes you got to make sure you look at the radar presentation. And I'm just for laughs.
By the
Go
way,
ahead. I'm sorry.
T.S.
T.S. Eliot.
Eliot, T.S.
That's
Eliot,
right.
and he said April is the cruelest month. And I want to mea culpas yesterday to Leon Probitsky, one of our big fans, who hit super chats, but he hit it right after he hit it. I mean, we ended the show and we didn't mention his contribution yesterday, and then Renata came down. Who, by the way, I don't know if Leon is aware of this, but Renata is vice president of the Leon Probitsky fan club, Hudson Valley, and so she came down here and she said, "You forgot to mention Leon Probitsky. He hit super chats." And so I said, "Oh, and now he's hitting. He hit it again just now with two hippopotamuses, or is it hippopotami, lurking out of the water?" But thank you very, very much, Leon, for your
Well,
contribution tonight, and we apologize. Mea culpa
I
for
messaged
yesterday.
him. I messaged him personally after the show yesterday, and also Steve Lapointe.
Oh, well,
Let's not
that's good.
forget Steve Lapointe uh, uh, issued. I'm sorry, hit super chat. Thank you, Steve. And he says, Joe. He said you didn't. He was surprised you didn't talk about the LYRID meteor shower and the pink full moon.
Lyrid, the Lyrid meteor shower, one of the uh, weak meteor showers of the year. There's like 10 quote principal meteor events, and the Lyrid's in like near the bottom. They're like in the second division, if you will. So I don't really think much of them. However, there is a meteor shower that is coming up at the end of May, which might not just be a shower. It could be an outburst. It might even be a full-fledged meteor storm, and we'll certainly be talking a lot more about that in the weeks to come. And the pink full moon. And whenever you bring up the pink full moon, somebody does, I always think back to a weather forecast. I don't know, maybe she was a little bit before your time, Joe, but back in the early 1960s on Channel 2 here in New York, and that was the era of weather
Carol
women.
Reed.
Most of the TV stations had
Yes.
Carol Reed on Channel 2. And and she used to finish off her weather with "and have a happy." Very, very popular. And I remember, this is so distinct in my mind. One night, Carol Reed said, "Oh, and I hope all of you out there will go out tonight and look at that lovely pink full moon." And my mother heard that. She looked at me, I looked at her, and she said, "Well, why don't we go outside and take a look at the pink full moon?" And we went outside and we saw the full moon rising above the East River, because this was when I was living on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And we looked at each other again and said, "That's not pink. It's like, looks like the regular type of full
It's
moon." I may have
chartreuse,
been like
Joe.
5 years old or 4 years old.
Chartreuse.
Chartreuse. There's not much to say about this month's pink full moon, but next month, Joe, 6 weeks from yesterday, 6 weeks from yesterday, May 15th, put that on your calendar, put a big red circle. It's a Sunday night. We will have a total eclipse of the moon, and it's going to happen during the convenient evening hours, like 10 o'clock at night, so everybody will get a chance to see it. Naturally, of course, it'll be cloudy here,
Of
but
course.
it'll be nice to know that naturally, but at least we will tell you now, Steve Lapointe and all of you Astro fans, that we have a possible big meteor shower and a total eclipse coming up, not this month, but next month. And we
I
will,
have to find
again,
out if I can do this, but because I have a mountain blocking the sun and the moonrise, so I will never see it. Okay, so I would have to go someplace where there's some elevation. Now, I live 10 minutes away from the highest peak in the state of Georgia, which is Brasstown Bald, and it's just under 5,000 feet. And I got to find out if the park how late the park is open, because if it's open late, and they got wireless up. If they got wireless internet up there, I could take my computer and I could attempt to do a show from up there.
that would be nice. And if it is what you say, I would not be surprised if there must be some local astronomy club in northern Georgia that may even make pilgrimage up to that peak or the summit to do stargazing on certain times of the
Let
year.
me
So, and if that be the case, I'll lay you 2-to-1 odds. They'll be up there on that Sunday night for the lunar
let
eclipse.
I
So,
will
not this Sunday night again. May
I
15th.
will do a little digging about that. Thanks for putting that into my feeble little brain, because I'll it never would have occurred to me to 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 see. They might be based over in Pixley, so I might have to
Yeah,
take a ride over to Pixley. Um,
right.
just
Well, Crabwell
Crabwell
Corners.
Corners, which is just to the south of Mayberry. Uh,
Right.
the the world we live in. All right, let's do a little bit of Briller Jeopardy, which is back because the chairman's been off for the last week or two and taking a break, and we're glad to hear that his mom's doing okay. So let's get right to it here, Joe. So the weather extremes in New York City in the month of April is our category for tonight. So, are you ready to roll? The
Yes.
highest temperature ever in the month of April.
That has to be the Easter Sunday in 1976, April 18th, 1976, 96 degrees. Although I think that 96 was tied some years later, I
2002,
think.
correct on both ends. So you get a
All
bonus in
righty.
my view for that one. The next
Thank you.
question is, what was the lowest ever recorded in New York City in April?
Oh God, that I should know. I know the hot, but I know the hot end of the extremes because I mean you and I lived through that. And as far as the low, what could it possibly be? Could it possibly be in the single digits in April? If it were, it has to be in the early part of the month, like right now. Um, I'll say 9 degrees.
All right, well, it's within your margin of error of 512 in 1923. What was the most snow ever to fall in the month of April? I guess
You
this
know,
is a monthly
I
total, by the way.
well, the oh, and I just did this. I do some stuff. There's something called the New York Almanac, and I was asked by the editor to provide some tidbits, and one of the tidbits was I think like in the last week of April, like April 25th or 26th, there was 3 inches of snow, and that was the latest measurable amount, not just the trace, but the latest amount ever. I'm trying to remember the year because in that same month where they had the 3 inches of snow, it was also the snowiest April on record with something like 13 inches for
Oh,
the
very
month.
good.
But I just cannot remember. I just cannot remember the year. What year was it? I think actually it was in the 1800s, late 1800s.
Yes.
But I just don't remember what year it
Uh,
was.
Correct on
1875.
both 13 and a half and 1875. Oh God, another extra bonus points for you. Since 1869,
Yeah.
how many Aprils have recorded at least 1 inch of snow?
It would have to be. It'd have to be not necessarily half. Let's see, it's 1869 would be like 153, 75, because I think the record, the average is 2 inches. So in order for them to come up with a two
One
inch
inch.
average, you have to have a whole
Average
lot
for
of.
April's 1 inch.
No, I know, no, it used to be two
Oh, well,
inches. For whatever reason, parts of the part, it's funny. Like December and January, whatever like that, they've gone up. But as we get toward the end of the winter season, some things have gone down. But I would still say, I'll say, yeah. I'll say
oh,
75
way off.
of at least
Way
one
off.
inch.
27.
Really? What was it?
27. So basically, when
27?
you think of, roughly
Really?
once every 5 or 6 years, which when you think about it, kind of makes sense. Um, since 1869, how many Aprils have had at least 5 inches of snow?
Oh, get out of here. How about three?
10, believe it or not.
Now, wait a minute. Hold on for a second. So 26 times we've
27,
had at least an
right.
inch, 27, and you figure at least five, you'd figure that there'd only be a fraction of that. And yet we've had 10?
Well, think about it. 1875, okay. 1982, right? There's two of them right. There's two of them
Right.
right there. So I guess you need to just dig around. It's not inconceivable that um, that you could have had a number of events that produced 5 inches of snow that is a bit out of proportion to the 1 inch events. Because this time of year, I'm thinking if you're gonna get snow accumulations, you're gonna wind up getting it most of the time from something of substance as far as a storm is concerned. So maybe you have a slightly higher chance of getting a bigger number as opposed to a smaller number. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
I don't know
Since
either.
18
I was never good in
yes, since
statistics.
1869, how many 90-degree days have been recorded in the month of April?
Hmm, good question. We know of at least
Right, and
two.
the
Um,
1976 was a 3 day 3 days of 90 plus weather, and I think even in 2002 it was 3 days of 90 plus weather. So you've got six right there.
I will say, well, you know what? I'll say the same. I'll say the same number as the 1 inch of snow because it's like on the other side of the extreme. We talk about cold and snow and hot and. I'll say 27.
And the answer is, I had the answer, 19. 19. Okay.
19.
Now
Yeah.
here's
All
your
right. So
bonus question. Okay. Of all the thousands of products Walmart sells, what is the number one product that they sell? Is it A, children's toys, B, bicycles, C, coffee makers, D, bananas, E, soda stream canisters?
I'd have to say children's toys.
The answer is bananas. And I can
Get
well,
out of
most
here.
Walmarts have food in them.
You the most I know that. I was in Walmart today for God's
Well,
sake.
bananas.
Bananas?
Most people eat bananas. I buy bananas all the time.
I I but
By the
never
way,
mind. I'm
by the
not going to
way,
say anything.
great Andy Griffith episode. I didn't watch it all the way through. Was Aunt B was well. There was gossip going around that Barney had gotten a cut in some kind of something that happened doing police work. And by the time the story went through the gossip mill, he was dead, and the Undertaker showed up at Andy's office to pick Barney's body up. So it became all about gossip, and Aunt B and her friend. What was her friend's name? It started with an E. No, it
Clara.
wasn't
Clara.
Clara. This was someone else.
Oh,
Yeah.
E? No.
Uh, they were sitting having a sandwich at the lunch shop, and then they started. They started something to get the men gossiping over stuff, and I didn't watch the rest of the episode. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because I get a double Andy Griffith episode on TV Land between 6 and 7 p.m.
No, come here. We've got TV Land. We got Me TV. You can't get away from Andy Griffin on cable here in the tri-state area. Black and white, color, and in fact, if you have Me TV Plus, Joe, Me TV Plus also runs Mayberry RFD with
Oh
Ken
God.
Berry after Andy Griffith left. Remember
Yes.
that?
Yes. And Aunt B stayed.
Aunt B
Yeah.
stayed,
Did
right?
Opie?
I read somewhere where Aunt B. I read somewhere where Aunt B and Andy Griffith, Francis Bavier, and Andy Griffith
Well,
didn't
not
like
that they
each
didn't
other,
like each other.
and maybe that's why.
Frances was a stage actress, so primarily, and she was very much a perfectionist. And so she would get annoyed if people didn't know their lines and if they had to do multiple takes for things. So she was a bit difficult to work with at first, but she actually addressed that in a later interview and apologized about it. That maybe she had been a little bit too
Right.
hard. But that sometimes happens when you get people that you get actors that spend a lot of their time, spend most of their careers on the stage, on Broadway, and then when they go to work in television or they go to work making movies, it's a whole different ball game. So it's a whole different way of doing things.
Right.
So you could be there, you could be someplace for an entire day just to shoot like a 15-second scene, as opposed to getting on a stage and just running through an entire act uh, from start to finish. So it is a bit different. Anyway, okay, so let me just give one last check to see what's going on. We have any additional? By the way, folks, if you're watching this on a replay, the radars and satellites are all dated. We're coming up on 8:30 Eastern time, so please remember that. And go to your local National Weather Service office forecast page uh, to get the latest weather information regarding severe weather, and you can do that by going to weather.gov. One last check here of tornadohq.com, and we've got some severe thunderstorm warnings that are up northwest of Fort Worth. Was a tornado warning that was just issued. A severe thunderstorm warning capable of producing a tornado near St. Joe. It's actually St. Joe, not St. Joseph. It's just a St. Joe. Or about 10 miles southeast of Nakona,
Yes.
Texas, moving northeast at 20 miles an hour. And if you notice, there's the brownish box, and then the red box on the inside designating the tornado warning. And then there's another severe thunderstorm warning located near Kemp, Texas, moving northeast at 20. And the big one there near Chico, Texas, or 9 miles northwest of Bridgeport, Texas. Not Bridgeport, Connecticut, Bridgeport, Texas, moving east at 35 miles an hour. So it's all about severe weather tonight. It's going to be all about severe weather tomorrow. It's going to be all about severe weather on Wednesday. And we will be on top of it here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Now, don't forget, tomorrow night, yours truly will be on with Mr. Chiaffi at 8:30 because I'm doing a talk for the Crestwood Library in Yonkers,
Yes,
the city of hills.
correct. So 8:30, folks, tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern Time. We will see you then. And good night, everybody.
Good night.